Hi friends, this is Angelica. Thanks for joining me here on the Greetery YouTube channel. There's a new collection coming to the Greetery shop this Wednesday, and I'm really excited to be introducing some of the new products today. I picked 4 products to work with, and I'm also going to be showing 2 new embellishment bits that are in the Harvest Fest collection. The first product I'm going to be using is the To Die For pie. This is a 7-piece die set, and I'm going to show how to make a few different pies with it. The large dies in the set are for the pie, and then there's 3 leaves and a heart center to decorate your pie top. I've already die cut white cardstock off screen, and I'm going to use Distress Oxide inks to ink the pie pieces. You can see I have 2 circle die cuts in the upper left corner. The circle die will come attached with a pie filling die, and you just can snip those pieces apart so you can make a pie topper or a flat pie like a pumpkin pie, or you can position the berry die or the pie filling die in the middle of the circle, so you have a little bit of texture to the circle. This first die cut that I'm working with is going to be the top of one of my pies, and then it's also going to be the crust to the rest of the pies that I'm going to make. And the colors I'm using right now are Vintage Photo and Tea Dye. I thought these were the 2 closest colors to ink white cardstock with to make it look like it came right out of a oven. So it's a little, I just wanted like that really pretty golden top. I'm not much of a baker, so in fact, I've never baked a fruit pie before. So I'm just kind of like, this is how I would want my pie to look like if I pulled it out of my oven. To be honest, so I have a feeling my first pie would be a little burnt. And now that I'm thinking about it, I wish I'd made a burnt pie. I think that would be hilarious to give to somebody who's maybe had a fumble in the kitchen. It would make me laugh. So maybe I'll do that next time. Just toast that top just a little bit more than what it needed to be. Okay, so now I'm moving on to the filling, the pie filling. So this first one I'm doing in red. I want it to be a cherry pie, and it does have the berry texture to it. And then the orange is going to be a pumpkin pie. And then the last one, I am going to put some blue in the center because I want it to be a blueberry pie. And it's going to go underneath the pie topper. So I am also going to ink the edges of the white circle just when I glue the topper on top of this piece. None of the white edge will show. And then the last pieces I'm going to ink up before assembling the pies are the leaves. I'm just making them look like baked dough pieces. Now, I've already inked some more pieces off screen for the pie shell. This is going to be the topper on the cherry pie, so I inked 2 more pieces. The first 2 pieces I am going to glue together, so it's going to have a little bit of a thickness to it. And then I'm going to glue that to the other piece in the opposite direction. I am using a small amount of glue while I'm doing this, and I have a needlepoint bottle so I can be really careful of where I'm putting the glue because I don't want the glue to come out in any sort of way and touch any of the ink because it will activate the ink, and the oxide inks do really weird things when they get wet. So I just don't want any smudge or wet marks on my crust. So I am being pretty careful where I'm putting the ink. And then when I glue the pie crust to the circle does not go to the edge. So I'm only putting glue on the lines and leaving the edge alone. And I did tap off a little bit of the glue before I put it on top of the pie filling. And while this is drying, I am going to stick it under my MISTI so it dries flat. For the blueberry pie, I am going to use the heart center to die cut the pie top. So I ran that through my die cut machine. I did make sure to tape it down with really not sticky tape. I'm using purple tape, but I did put it on my pants a couple times just to make it as unsticky, but still sticky, if that makes sense, because the paper is still kind of wet from the oxide inks, and I didn't want the pressure from the die cut machine to pull up the inked part of the cardstock. So I glued those two pieces together, and now again I'm gluing them on the pie crust, just putting glue on the lines of the pie crust. And I'm going to set this under my MISTI 2 while it dries. And then for the pumpkin pie, I am going to glue those 3 baked dough leaves to the center of the pumpkin pie for a quick embellishment. I am going to make one more pumpkin pie, this time out of solid cardstock. I'm using Nina Desert Storm cardstock for the crust and the Stamp Market Rusty cardstock for the pumpkin. So I'm going to glue those together, let the glue dry for a minute, and then I'm going to top the pumpkin pie with a dollop of whipped cream. So I have embossing paste and a small spatula, and I'm going to spread the embossing paste on top of the pumpkin pie. I was very careful to be sure to keep the embossing paste in the center of the pie. I do have this sped up, but in real time, I did take my time trying to keep that cream to the center of the pie and not have it touch any outside part of the orange cardstock. And the reason why I'm using solid cardstock, because I could not do this with an inked panel. This embossing paste would pick up that ink and then the cream would turn orange, and I did not want that. Now we're going to take a look at the 2 new embellishment bits that will be in the shop on Wednesday. The first one is apple spice bits. This is a lovely mix. It has chunks of chocolate, chocolate sprinkles, caramel sprinkles, little slices of apples. There's some red jewels. It's really pretty and just perfect for fall, especially if you like to make shaker cards. And then there's the nutty bits. I absolutely love these. They do look like chopped nuts, and I thought they would be perfect to top this pumpkin pie with. So I just sprinkled some on top. I did push them into the paste, so when the paste dried, they would grip onto the nutty bits. And here are the 4 pies that we just put together. The cherry pie was my favorite pie that I made, so I'm going to put that aside for the card, and now we're going to move on to making a background. This is the Herringbone Parquet die. It does not have a cutting edge, so it's just going to give your panel a really nice embossed look. I did die cut a larger panel than the die itself, so you can see that it does not cut the edges. It just gives that beautiful design. It will cut slits. All of those wood pieces are, you can put your fingers through them. So it's not like an embossing folder. It does cut. It just does not cut the pieces apart. So you have this beautiful textured wood floor or wood background. And again, I pulled out some Distress Oxide inks, and I just want to make this look like a really old vintage wood floor. I thought these 3 colors would work well together. I don't know if I've ever used them together, but for a very vintage floor, I just thought these 3 would work. So I am taking my time in real time, trying to figure out where I want to put the colors. So I did speed up the process because I want to have the whole inking on screen for you. But my inspiration was taken from one of my favorite places to go eat here where I live. There is an old bar. It's probably the original first bar in our city. It's over 100 years old, and it has the original floors still in it. My husband and I love to go there and have steamed clams for lunch, and I just love their floors so much. It's got like the 100 years of grunge on it, and they're just so beautiful. So that was my inspiration for this. That's what I had in the back of my head when I was inking up the panel. I do end up going a little heavy-handed with the ground espresso because I just want to bring in that really dark, dirty look to it, I guess you could say. And because it does have the wood grain embossed into the panel, using a couple different colors under the ground espresso gives the grain a different detail than just using plain cardstock or just using one ink over white cardstock. I like this style. I love grungy grungy looks. So now I'm going to show you what the white cardstock next to the ink cardstock looks like. And we're going to move on to our third product. This is the cinnamon sticks die. It's a 4-piece die set. It's going to make 2 cinnamon sticks, and then you can glue them together and top it with the bow. So I used Vintage Photo for the inside cinnamon stick and ground espresso for the toppers that you put on top of the sticks. And then I inked the bow red. Now I end up taking the bow off of the cinnamon sticks. I didn't care for the way I inked this bow, so I didn't show the inking process because I ended up not using this bow on the card. So I'm going to get these pieces glued together, crisscross the cinnamon sticks, and then I will add glue to the bottom of the bow. And I wrapped the die cut around the cinnamon sticks, so it gave a round effect to the bow. Now, once I finish on with the cinnamon sticks, we are going to move on to the sentiment. And I'm going to use the Fall Foodie Phrases stamp set. This is a pretty large sentiment set. You have all these large stamped words, and there's a coordinating die set sold separately for the larger words. And then tons of little sentiments to finish those words off, or maybe put the sentiment before the word. So I'm going to stamp out all of the words so you can see what they look like. Now, when I first stamped, you can see I'm a little curious because I did not understand why there were lines underneath the words. I thought maybe I had inked them wrong, or maybe something happened in my die cut machine when I die cut the white cardstock first. But no, they are there. So I did look at the acetate that the stamps come on, and I mean, it looks great. I just wanted to make sure I didn't mess up the words. So once I decided on what stamped die cut word I wanted to use, I picked a sentiment to match it. So I'm going to stamp that onto white cardstock. I will trim that down, and the card's coming together nicely, but I wanted just something else to put on the card because the pie does look a little blank by itself on the wood background. So to break that up, I used the Cozy Cup coaster die to die cut a coaster for the pie to sit on. And I decided to stick with the fall theme and make it orange. I used some oranges and browns to ink the coaster. And the sentiment now was just a little too white with all the other pieces inked. So I did ink the edges of the sentiments with Concord and Ninth's wheat ink to break that white up a little bit. And now I have all of my pieces for the card done, and I'm just going to attach everything to the card panel with some glue. I added the pie first, and I did let that sit for a minute under the MISTI so it would dry flat, and then I glued on the sentiment and the cinnamon sticks, and then attached this panel to a card base, and that finishes today's card. Now, this is just a taste of what's in the new Harvest Fest collection. Be sure to head over to the Greetery blog to see all of today's reveals, get the full description on every product, and then there's lots of inspiration, lots of projects being shared. The Harvest Fest collection will be in the Greetery shop this Wednesday, August 30th at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. That's all that I have for today. I want to thank you again for joining me. Take care, friends.